Hi, remember my second channel? I'm currently uploading there a lot more frequently now, so if you are interested, consider subscribing. Link is always in the description. I greatly appreciate it. So within the grand scheme of things, I am very new to webtoons. I only have about a year or two of reading experience underneath my belt, but I have enjoyed every single moment of it. Now, how I was introduced personally is because of all of you. Out of all the recommendations, I picked one that looked or sounded rather interesting and went with it. And this is how I was introduced to Kanbi Kim. Now, Kanbi Kim is a very recognizable author that has gone on and done some of the most iconic works for webtoons or manhwa. Sweet Home is definitely their biggest series, and a lot of you have probably heard about it, but they've also done Bastard, Pigpen, and are currently doing Shotgun Boy and Flawed Almighty. I really enjoy how Kanbi Kim writes their story, mixing one's emotional state, their trauma, their identity, and who they are as a human, contrasted with monsters and the dive into aggression and one's identity. Usually they blend over into each other, so this human that's dealing with these traumatizing events has to make a very difficult choice. Do they continue down this path of spiraling and destruction and turn into this hideous monster, which obviously encaptures a physical form, strength, speed, agility, everything that you could imagine, but they lose themselves, they lose their minds, they lose their emotions, they're no longer the same person? Or do they try to fight against it and regress the transformation in some way possible by trying to heal themselves, by trying to find themselves? It's meant to be this tug of war battle, and every one of Kanbi Kim's story has this identity woven within it, and it's super engaging. It's very enjoyable. Today, however, I wanted to talk about one of their newest stories, Shotgun Boy, which has definitely blown up in the past year or two that it has been published. And there's a good reason for this. Not only is the story incredibly enjoyable, but it turns out it's actually a prequel to Sweet Home. So if by any means you are a Sweet Home fan, Shotgun Boy is definitely a story to read. It is a prequel. It shows you the origin of a lot of things, and it even crosses over some characters. Let's have a look at Shotgun Boy, however. Our story revolves around Gyuhwan Han, who is our main character of the story, and someone that is a very troubled boy, has been abused and bullied, horrifically tormented for a massive portion of his schooling career. He has had it undoubtedly rough, and it's all by the hands of this one school bully known as Seongbin Yu. Obviously, these two do not get along. The bully is ferocious and vicious and disgusting, and our main character has endured so much pain and torment because of it. Everyone has turned a blind eye to this. They've just watched this happen to our main character. No one stepped in, no one helped, no teacher would reach out to support our main character. So he feels isolated, he feels lost, he feels confused, but also angry, someone that wants revenge. This would spiral down into a very dark path that the main character has thought about taking, where he would want to end the life of all of his fellow students, which luckily enough doesn't actually come to fruition. This idea, however, coincides with the school trip that they actually go on. This is the retreat. They go out of town, they go to a nice little resort retreat area just to spend a handful of days. And while they're on this retreat, they get attacked by monsters. Now, these aren't just any monsters. These are monsters that can take the forms of humans. They're extremely quick, very powerful, very intelligent, and of course they speak. They quite literally mimic humans perfectly, where you cannot tell. But if they are provoked, small tentacles will emerge outside of their body. They can also steal the image of another person after they kill them by eating their brain, which also gives them access to memories and emotions and any sort of information that the brain has captured. Vicious, cruel monsters is what they are. Now, our main character would get chased into the woods, not by a monster, but by the bully. And this would, funny enough, save his life, as the remaining of the students would get huddled into a hall to watch some remaining events for like a festival. This is where the monsters would ultimately plan their attack and try to kill all of these students. While this is happening, however, our main character would fall down a cliff and almost die because of this situation, but he would come across a flipped over truck which would have a shotgun inside of it. And this truck is very ominous, it has some very weird things within it, and this shotgun is very peculiar. It's special, so to speak, and it will become a primary staple for our main character to defend himself. Eventually, he goes back to the hall where all the students are, ready to face the bully, not knowing that monsters even exist. And as he goes in, he realizes that something's wrong. There's a lot of dead people on the ground, a lot of students huddled up together, and these weird creatures just standing there idly. This is where everything would kick off. The monsters would come out to play, we'd try to kill all the students would scatter, and we'd find out just how powerful this shotgun that the main character has truly is. It manages to shoot one of the monsters, and turns out it can kill them quite efficiently. It is insanely effective, and it's because it has some sort of venom inside of its pellets that is directly for these monsters to keep them at bay, to potentially kill them. This would put the monsters on edge. As fast and quick and powerful they are, they cannot get hit by this gun or its pellets at all. And our main character is determined. As flimsical and bullied he's always been, he is now distorted. He is now so within the zone, within his element, within this specific mindset, and he's able to do a lot of damage to these monsters. With this, all of the remaining students are able to scatter and try to escape, with our main character leaving with another individual, as well as the monsters themselves tactically retreating. This is where the story of Shotgun Boy would start, and how the survival in this area, the forest, the retreat, and these monsters hunting down every single student comes into play. Who will survive? How will they survive? How will they tell if a monster has transformed into a human and is mimicking them, is trying to get closer to them? This is Shotgun Boy. So when I first started reading this, I honestly didn't know what to expect. It starts off very strong with some very serious things, and as much as it doesn't play on it, it is very heavily alluded to. So much so that I don't want to verbally express it so YouTube does not smite me. But do know that it does have a very extreme showcase of bullying and the effects for it, and how this can completely distort and change an individual very rapidly, especially with how disgusting the bullying can be. It's not the most detailed, of course, because it happens right at the beginning of the story, but it gives you so much of that idea very rapidly that it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but something that definitely smooths out over time. To me, this very overwhelming or shocking introduction is to more so force in the idea of these type of characters before the monsters start happening, before these students have to survive in the forest with each other, with whatever weapons or ideas they can come up with. And one of the specialities of Kanbi Kim's writing is what I mentioned at the beginning, one's identity, and either becoming something special and great and healing somewhat, or spiraling out of control and self-destructing. This concept is prevalent in pretty much every single work by Kanbi Kim, and it's also here. Our main character is a broken, traumatized boy, someone that was going to take it very far, and this event ultimately starts to change him a little bit. He starts to become relied upon. He starts to find himself. He starts to become friendlier. He starts to open up a lot more and converse with more people. And even though it's a product of the circumstances that everyone is within, and the fact that he has the only gun that can actually kill these monsters, he's still a normal boy. He's not someone that is completely lost to this anger, to this revenge, even though it may seem like it. The affection that he receives, the kindness, the friendship that he experiences, even within this dire situation, is hard-hitting. It's emotional for himself. It's fulfilling. He comes to connect with characters he never thought he would, and he starts to become seen for the first time. I personally really love this duality of a character's identity. It's something that's pushed forward so beautifully and efficiently, and it's never just with the main character. There's usually always counterpart or some sort of opposing force, and of course, the bully is our opposing force in this situation. He's not just a normal bully anymore. He would go on to become someone very similar to the main character that is quote-unquote evolving. Something is changing within these characters, and it is latched onto or connected to their soul, to their being, to their emotions, and how they handle themselves in this step into evolution is what they potentially will evolve into, what their final stage could be. On one hand, you could be a horrific, horrendous, monstered individual, evil. But on the other, you could be someone great. You could be someone incredible, phenomenal. This is backed with a nice, diverse cast of characters who you will probably struggle to decipher who is the main cast. This works because a lot of people get killed off. So while you think this individual may be part of the story of going forward, something will probably happen to them. And usually later on, a more clearer and precise main cast of characters will be formed. The artwork is very beautiful as usual. All of the differing artists that work with Kami Kim are very incredible and always channel some sort of style or aesthetic that Kami Kim wants, which is great to see. The relationship that they must have with one another seems very understanding and very intuitive. The most surprising thing from this story is the monsters. The fact that this series is a prequel to Sweet Home. Now, I've read Sweet Home. I enjoy it for what it's worth, and I had a lot of fun with it. So knowing that this is a prequel and seeing the somewhat origin of monsters per se is really interesting. See, Sweet Home, you're already within the apocalypse basically. Like by the time it all happens and you get to the grid of the story, these monsters have evolved and transformed into some pretty crazy things. Shotgun Boy being the prequel seems a lot smaller in scope. You see the very earliest versions of this monsterization, of these beings that exist, a very small group of them. And then there's even one individual that is very unique, that is considered an agent of God, that technically too is a monster but is completely different on the structural side of things. Whereas these monsters have extreme speed and strength and can morph their bodies and throw out these tendrils or tentacles to kill people and absorb their body, this one individual known as Zero is not that. They have some incredibly gifted powers. They can lift things up with their mind, they can heal people from the dead, they can see the soul of every human being and how rotten or diseased it truly is. Zero is an anomaly within this story. You will see going through Shotgun Boy just how powerful but also how important this person can be. And if the origin or the monsters don't merge it enough for Sweet Home, you'll probably remember this character. His name is Hyuk Lee, I believe. He too is also in Shotgun Boy and is a part of the main cast of characters within Sweet Home. I think overall I really enjoyed this story. It's still ongoing, but knowing that it's a prequel to Sweet Home feels really comforting. Even though it doesn't provide a whole new litany of information, it does give you a good showcase of the origin of the monsters for the most part and some sort of godlike being. I would say it's the closest thing we've ever gotten for the world itself, but also just the experience of the story is really fun as well. It's a very interesting read, has a lot of enjoyable characters, has some very beautiful horror aesthetic artwork to it, and feels very similar to Sweet Home and all the other Kami Kim works. If you're a fan of Sweet Home or Bastard or Pigpen or any of Kami Kim's works, Shotgun Boy is definitely for you. You should 100% put it on your list. But even if you're looking for a story that's about one's identity, their soul, whether they ascend into something else or devolve into a hideous monster, the conflict, the line being blurred between human and monster while versing literal monsters. If this sounds by any means compelling or interesting or maybe something you're looking for, I would wholeheartedly recommend Shotgun Boy. I think a lot of you will probably enjoy it. End time. So with that, welcome to the end of the video. If you have made it this far, thank you. I appreciate you. I would love to hear your thoughts on Shotgun Boy and even Kami Kim. Have you read any of their previous works? Have you read Shotgun Boy, maybe Sweet Home, Bastard, etc.? Let me know in the comment section below. But with that, I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Drink plenty of water and I will see you within the next one. Goodbye.